Oregon is under attack. Martial law, civil war. Anybody? And the Oscar goes to... Philip with Be Ready Fit, Ready Report. So, Oregon is under attack. The headlines these people come up with, man. Oregon under attack. U.S. authorities are blasted for weak response to armed militia insurgency. An armed militia insurgency. That's International Business Times. It's a UK paper, so what do they know? But they're reporting that, Oregon is being taken over and under attack by these crazy militia insurgency. Now, let's get to the facts of the matter. This is a very intricate process, or a very intricate story. You've got the Bundys, you've got the Hammonds, you've got a militia, okay? BLM, Bureau of Land Management, they go in and they take people's land. That's what they do. They drive these ranchers off of their land, and then they seize the land. Back in 2001, the Hammonds set a control burn on their property, and it got a little out of hand. It burned 136 acres, I think 136 acres of federal property. Nothing happened then. Later on in 2006, same thing, another control burn. It burnt 1 acre of federal land. At that time, they decided to prosecute. The judge in the case said that these Hammond brothers were such outstanding members of the community that they were the salt of the community, that under the Eighth Amendment, that this would be cruel and unusual punishment to give them the full minimum sentence of 5 years. So, he brought it down. They served their time. They paid their debt to society. This was 2006. Now it's 2015, 2016. And the federal government is coming back and saying that that punishment was not harsh enough. So they're sending them to jail again. Now there's 2 problems with this. One, that's double jeopardy. You cannot serve a sentence, you cannot pay a debt for the same crime twice. Furthermore, if anybody needs to go to jail, it's the judge. The judge did not mete out the minimum required sentence for the crime. So if somebody needs to go to jail this go around, the judge is the one that broke the law, not the Hammond brothers. Now, because of the BLM coming in and taking all the property, the Bundys have decided to get involved. You have the Bundys and a militia, reports 100, 150, 200, I don't know the exact number of people that have taken over this wildlife refuge up in Oregon. Now, the Hammond brothers, the family, the local sheriff, and the community are saying, we don't want you here, go away. Now, the Bundys and the militia are saying, enough is enough. The government needs to stop butting in to ranchers' lives and seizing their property. Back off. So, who's right? Who's wrong? Either way you look at it, government should not come in and seize people's land. That is their land. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. If they have gained that land and it can be traced back through time to I think the Bundys were back in the 1800s is when they acquired the land, it's their land. Leave them alone. Now, Civil War and martial law. How does this apply? Well, if you look back at Fort Sumter was the start of the Civil War, in which you had the state of South Carolina secede from the Union, and they had a fort out in the middle of Charleston Bay called Fort Sumter. It was the most heavily fortified fort that they had there in that area. Under the cloak of darkness, the Federal Army, the Union, war hadn't broken out just yet, but the Union came in and they seized control of Fort Sumter. Once the South Carolinians and the Confederacy, not yet formed, but the Confederacy fighters found out, they fortified the bay and focused all of their attention to Fort Sumter. They bombarded it day and night. I forget how many days, but they bombarded it. They shot cannons, and they obliterated the place. The army that was occupying Fort Sumter surrendered. They were allowed passage back to their territory, back to their ships, and it was over until the war broke out. And the end of the war, we know they came back, and ultimately the Union seized control of Fort Sumter. Now, look at both of these parallel situations in this light. Civil War, you had a private property owned by the state, taken over by federal entities, taken back by its rightful owner, the state. In this situation, BLM coming in and taking private citizens' land, and now those private citizens are coming back and saying, no, enough is enough, this is our land. Now here's the tricky part. Now there are reports coming that are saying the FBI is staging in a local elementary school, getting ready to do some type of seizure, some type of military attack, whatever you want to call it. Now that's the scary part. If, in fact, the FBI is actually going to go in, guns a-blazing, after the Bundys and the militia have said, we do not want gunfire, we want a peaceful resolve, we will not fire unless we are fired upon mentality. Now, if the FBI comes in and guns a-blazing, they try and take things back, this is going to get nasty. Now, that's where civil war and martial law comes into effect. Optically, this is playing right into the administration's hands. You've got some crazy white people with guns taking over, attacking Oregon. What better situation to implement martial law? Now, if, again, big if this is to happen, if martial law is to be taken into effect because of this situation, how nasty is that going to get? If you have, optically, yes, it looks bad, but if you look at the principle of the matter, the government is taking private property and private citizens are saying enough is enough, and now the government's coming in and murdering them. That's going to be a nasty situation. Also, today you have Obama coming out in a televised event outlining his executive order on gun control. Now, he laid out a lot of different things, extensive background checks, making it more hard for you to actually legally obtain a gun. It goes into the mental aspect, making sure you're mentally stable, tries to eliminate the gun show loophole. If you are going to even sell one, if I'm going to sell you a firearm, I have to be a licensed firearm dealer. It cannot be private citizen to private citizen anymore. There has to be a record. That's where you start a national registry. If you have a national registry, every gun that is supposedly ever made is going to be tracked. There's a problem there. If you look throughout history of time, anytime there was a national registry for firearms, what did they do with that national registry? They came and hunted you down. Every time. They came, hunted you down, took your guns, and ultimately, if you resisted, they'd kill you. There's a big problem right there. It also gives $500 million to more mental health issues, all that kind of stuff, treating. It's going to have more people going into the background checks to hopefully expedite the process of a background check. We'll see. Now, throughout this entire speech that he made, he was citing that the majority of Americans agree with him on this. Now, we'll get into the legality of it, but he's wrong on two parts. One is the legality of it. Two is his math is horribly wrong. A new Gallup poll came out in which 1,000 people in all 50 states were polled, and 2% agree with him. 2! Now, I'm not very good at math, as anybody that knows me will attest to, but I can understand that 2% is not a majority. He does not have the majority on his side. The vast, overwhelming majority is against him. He went on to say that the majority of the NRA members are against him. I'm a member of the NRA. No. I can guarantee you the majority of the NRA is not for this. Now, going on to the legality of the issue. The president, if you've taken any civics class and if you haven't, study civics. The way the government works. Judicial, legislative, executive. The way the presidency works is you cannot make laws. You can sign laws into effect, and you can veto laws. It is the legislature, the Congress, that makes the laws. An executive order making a gun control law is unconstitutional. Now, this from a man who says that he's taught constitutional law. Whatever. He should know better. The Constitution gives him no authority, none whatsoever, to do this. Now, if Congress were to step up and do what Congress is supposed to do, they would not veto, but they would do anything that they could within their power to say, no, this is not going to happen. That's remaining to be seen. Now, you have the Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, who has come out, and he's saying, okay, yeah, we're going to monitor the situation. We're going to make sure that your rights are not infringed upon. Everything's going to be okay. The Speaker of the House, the third in line to the presidency, needs to come out and say, Obama, your actions are 1, unconstitutional, null and void, inactive, and 2, we will not conform or comply, and we will fight tooth and nail. Will he do it? No. We know how Paul Ryan acts now due to the big omnibus $1.1 trillion bill that he sold out America and its grandchildren to. But that's what he needs to do. If he were to do that, if he were to take that stand and say no, this would be a completely different narrative, and the swing of the situation would have an optically different feel to it. Now, again, going back to the legality of it, the Constitution, the framers of the Constitution knew what they were doing. The law of the land. The general misconception is that any statute passed by legislatures bearing the appearance of law continues the law of the land. The U.S. Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and any statute to be valid must be in agreement. It is impossible for a law which violates the Constitution to be valid. This is succinctly stated as followed. Marbury versus Madison in 1803, quote, all laws which are repugnant to the Constitution are null and void. Now, an executive order is not a law, so it doesn't apply. Yes, it does. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land. Nothing can violate the Constitution. Period. Continuing, quote, where rights succeed by the Constitution are involved, there can be no rule making or legislation which would abrogate them. And this is from Miranda versus Arizona. Now, we have all kinds of principle. We have all kinds of statutes that back this. The president cannot make law. If he attempts to make law, it cannot be in direct conflict with the Constitution. And the Constitution, the Second Amendment of the Bill of Rights, clearly states, shall not be infringed. What can you do? Get informed, spread the word, pay attention, know what's going on. But more importantly, call your congressman, call your senator, call the White House, and simply tell them, the White House, just tell them no. Alan West has come out and he's saying he's got this campaign going. Just call and say no. You don't even have to give an explanation. Just say no. Okay, that's fine. But call your congressman, call your senator, and demand that they draft articles of impeachment. This tyrannical president has gone far enough. It's time to end this. The Constitution is not toilet paper, and it's been treated like toilet paper for way too long. So, do what you can do. As always, be vigilant, be safe, and be ready.